Welcome to the Farmer's Feed Raising the Barn podcast, which explores the unique ways folks in the agriculture sector are marketing their businesses. I'm Caroline Lewis, founder of the Farmer's Feed and host of the show. Chef Lynsey Comalander is bringing big flavor and local flair to the town of Clover, South Carolina. As the executive chef behind the popular food truck, It's Worth It, Lynsey draws inspiration from her travels and serves up inventive dishes like tacos, paninis, and Puerto Rican-inspired specials that have her customers coming back for more. But her commitment to local food goes beyond the food truck. She's a partner at Five Blossom Farm and resident chef for their events and farm-to-table dinners, kicking off the 2025 York County Ag and Art Tour with the locally sourced dinner at the Mercantile. In today's episode, Lynsey is going to be sharing how she works with farmers to source fresh, local ingredients, what she looks for in a farm partner, and what it really takes to create meaningful and seasonal meals. If you're a farmer looking to get your products into local restaurants, this conversation is packed with helpful insights and real talk from a chef who believes that fresh, local food isn't just worth it, it's essential. Welcome, Lynsey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I can't wait for this conversation. So I have had the pleasure of enjoying many of Lynsey's meals over the past, I think, at least year and a half.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for her to share with y'all really anything and everything about local food and kind of what it takes to, as a farmer, working with local chefs. So
Yes.
to start, you've had a really interesting journey into where you've now, owning your own food truck, working with Five Blossoms and a lot of other restaurants in the area. So from flight attendant to executive chef and now food truck owner, how have your travels influenced the way you cook and the ingredients that you seek out?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, like you said, like how I got into this industry it just kind of happened overnight, to be honest. I did get to travel around the world for 4.5 years with my previous job, trying food all over, honestly, the country and also other countries as well. I've taken a lot, like there were times I was in Seattle and I was able to get fresh salmon, where they toss it and everything at the pier and bring it back and serve it, and that was like super cool. So I try as much as I can to take what I've learned from just getting ideas and stuff from other countries and tying in my old job into this. Like I said, it happened overnight. If it wasn't all for COVID, I would have never even had the food truck. I would never be in this industry, would never be self-employed now. So yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that transition from flight attendant to chef. You said COVID was something that kind of was a catalyst.
Yeah, so I actually was living in Texas at the time during COVID. When I became a flight attendant, I lived in D.C. for a little bit. I lived in Texas, and then I ended up living in Boston for a little bit as well. Great food in all those places. And so when COVID happened, I actually moved back to my parents' house, which is right behind Five Blossoms Farm. And we were still getting paid because of COVID happening and all that stuff, but we weren't obviously allowed to work, and because nobody was getting on flights. And I started looking on Facebook Marketplace, found the food truck. I opened the day March 5th of 2021, and American Airlines called me back, and I ended up having to be based in Boston at that time. So I was like running the food truck half the week, flying the other half of the week, and like also commuting to Boston because all my flights originated out of Boston. And then it got to a point where I was offered the job because of what I was doing with the food truck. I was offered a job as an executive chef. I took that. And it was too much to do all three. Like, yeah, I'm not Superwoman, nobody can really do that. And so I ended up quitting the airlines and then just going full force. And honestly, just one thing after another, like connection after connection, networking, and that's how the relationship with the farm came up, is the name that I made for myself and the food that I was making at the restaurant that I was at. And now I say pretty much, my motto is I just say yes, and that's kind of how I've gotten to where I'm at.
Yeah.
I don't usually do breakfast, but now I'm doing breakfast omelet bars. You know what I mean? Just because I say yes, because I'm capable of doing it. Just because I haven't done it before doesn't mean I can't do it. So
I love that. What's one of your favorite things you eaten or got to experience while you were traveling so much?
That's a good question. There was this place in Boston that a local actually took me to. It was about like an hour away. They were literally pulling oysters like straight out.
Oh, wow.
And we were just eating them fresh, which is so cool. And I honestly think that's what really like made me really think about like, oh, farm to table. Obviously, you know, I work with saltwater markets a lot as well. But the freshness of that was just so cool to me, that we were like, no preservatives, no nothing, literally just exactly what it was. So I think the oysters, probably.
That's really cool. It's funny, and I don't want to go off track on this conversation because we could, but I lived in DC for a bit, and so the like DC food scene itself has been crazy, because when I was there, it was 2011, 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
So like, it wasn't really as much of a kind of like food hub. Jose Andres was there, incredible,
Yes,
amazing restaurant, but like I feel like that was like almost the extent of it, and now it's blown up.
Yeah, it has. There was a place, it was like a tapas place, and at the time I didn't even like really know that there were restaurants that were just tapas, you know, and it was like Spanish influence, and I lived right across it, so I went and had like paella a lot, and those are things I didn't never cook myself, but that's another example of me just going to try stuff and then me wanting to execute it myself.
I love that. So you talked a little bit already about it's worth it, but how do you come up with your kind of rotating menu items there?
On the food truck? Honestly, more of whatever I can get my hands on, and I like to make something out of it. I try and be unique. Like when I've been at Windy Hill, I've done bulgogi tacos because I use their apples for the marinade. So I like to, especially like depending on where I'm at, I like to influence where I'm at and just use their ingredients. And I think that also pulls people in so much as well, is it makes it more personable for them to know, oh, wow, I want to try that because they just picked those apples and now I'm eating them in a totally different dish than just an apple.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So when it comes to then really sourcing locally like you do so well, are there specific qualities or kind of values that matter most when you're working with a farm or a farmer and trying to integrate their ingredients into your dishes?
Yeah. Well, first off, we're so blessed by like the farmers that we have around us. And I think the biggest thing about that is building trust within each other and trusting that the product that they're giving me and other people is exactly what they say it is. It's really cool because with the Ag and Art Tour and stuff, we have the opportunity to go out to all these farms and see actually what these people do for a living, what they harvest daily. So I think building those relationships first and then getting able to use their product. And one thing that I love about that is I'm also supporting someone locally as well, and vice versa. You know, it's a win-win each way.
So for then farmers listening who want to get some of their products into restaurants, whether that's here in York County or really anywhere, what is the best way to approach a chef like yourself? Is it kind of like cold emails, farmers markets, a sample drop-off to you, or?
Yeah, I think sample drop-offs are great, obviously, because we can actually see what the product is. It's a little hard for me because I'm a little bit everywhere. But yeah, reaching out on social media, email. I'm kind of the worst with emails, I'm not going to lie. Call, text, social media, like I said. And also, I try and go and network out, like in person as well, as much as I possibly can. If I'm at a farmer's market, I'm going to go introduce myself, most likely, and talk about, hey, could we ever partner together? Kind of how the whole partnership with Five Blossoms came up is just by being around each other and talking at the Blossom Bar one day, and now we're doing weddings. You know, we're doing 3-course, 4-course dinners for 60 people, and all farm to table, which is amazing. You know.
Yeah, and I think something too is, another way, now that we're having this conversation, is almost thinking like chefs, like you may approach, like, I hate the word influencer, but like influencer, like someone in the media. But if you're having an event, reaching out and inviting and saying, hey, we're having some kind of farm to table, or we're open for apple picking now, like would love for you to come out and like experience what we offer here, and like building those relationships that way. So if you're having events, you know, when you're trying to get more people to come over, think of your chefs as well as, you know, the people who are posting on Instagram or your local news outlets. Chefs could be another great resource for people to just like build relationships and inviting them out to their farm for something.
For sure, yeah. There are a few times that we've, you know, the farm has, you know, reached out to a few, like you said, influencers, just to kind of spread the word, because so many people have no idea what we're doing out there, you know, and it's even people that are super close that live across the road, they don't actually know. And we're actually trying to hit that mark to let people know, to spread that it's okay to go splurge a little bit and get a really nice meal, because it's not just, you're not just eating a meal, like we said, it's an experience, you know, the whole picking the flowers, but knowing also where exactly your food is coming from. That in itself is an experience.
So you talked a little bit about your partnership with Five Blossoms Farm and how that started. So you saw them at like a farmer's market, or they had an event with their Blossom Bar, and you kind of just met them there?
So
or?
we actually had met, I think it technically was a farmer's market where we met. And we just kind of had followed each other on Instagram, I believe. And they reached out to me. This was when I was an executive chef at the time. And they reached out to me and was wondering if I knew of somebody that would be interested in partnering with them and, you know, open up a wedding venue and whatnot. And I just was like, they were very specific on what they wanted, because they have kids and they want someone they can trust and all that, because at the end of the day, like, that's their home, you know? And so I asked, I was like, well, is this something that I can help with? And they were like, well, you would be our first choice, but we didn't think that you could do it because you're doing so much. And again, going back to what I said, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say yes.
Right.
If I'm capable of doing it, I want to do it. Even if it's something I've never done, like, I want to put myself out there and try it. What's the worst that can happen? I can fail, you know? And so the kitchen that you've seen at Five Blossom Farms, when we met for the first time, none of that was there. Like,
so y'all really partnered on that and building that out together.
And it was literally just grass. It was just part of the field. And it was just an idea that they had, and from there on, I was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what we can do. And the first one we did was actually June 15th of last year. It was a sip and stroll, and it was amazing. Like, we loved it. We've like expanded so much. In 2 weeks, I'm smoking the alligator, like I told you about. Never could imagine myself doing that. Also, I've never done that, you know? So that is, I guess we did meet that way, but really just reaching out and putting yourself out there is how that partnership has really flourished.
So then what is one thing a farmer could do to make your life easier as a chef who's trying to source locally?
I think a lot of farms, especially like that I've reached out to recently, their mark of trying to make their money is specifically like at farmers markets, and some are trying to just do retail, you know, but I think having a list of things that, oh, these are things that are harvested this week, and sending, I mean, that's actually a really good question. Maybe there's an email that can be sent out to local chefs that do what I do. Maybe there can be someone behind that saying, hey, we actually have excess of this, or we're harvesting this. We're probably not going to be able to sell it all at the farmer's market. We're not going to be able to sell it all wholesale. Can you use it? And I think that's probably a way that other chefs can find out, maybe if there's some kind of communication, a mass communication between a bunch of chefs and a bunch of farms.
Yeah.
That we can sign up for, saying, oh, hey, I want to know what you're harvesting in July. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's actually how I create the menus when I do farm to table dinners, is I actually go on South Carolina, like Ag and Art, and I find out what's being harvested during that month. And like, even that week, because that changes a lot too sometimes. And I try and incorporate as much as I can, and if I can outsource that, I try to.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I definitely hear of organizations who are kind of the middle person for farmers, where like they'll sell their products into this, and I can't think of the name of like what exactly it is. You may know, but essentially like they're the ones who then, the farmer delivers their products to this place. They can like store it, warehouse it, and then deliver it to restaurants, grocery stores, like all the local places. But it's eliminating that for the farmer itself, of having to also, you know, be organizing all their deliveries across the area that they're in.
Right.
But I know there are things like that in Charlotte. I don't know that we have something like that in York County, so maybe we should talk after this. Cause I do want to get more. Once again, getting off of anyways, I do want to get more into like the farm to table. Like, I'm so passionate about farmers and chefs and like local food movement, and so maybe that's something.
I think if there was an easier way, and that's another thing too, is sometimes when we approach, but obviously the price is so much more than like us just going to even the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, but you're paying for quality. Yes.
The taste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I said the other day, it's more than just getting it from a farm. It's the people behind it. It's the soil. It's all that stuff. So you are paying for quality. Sometimes that's really hard to manage with the farm to table, because when I price out the menu, it's hard because people are like, oh, pork belly, that's not expensive. Well, I'm getting pork belly from someone 5 miles down the road from me. I'm trying to. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the, like, why is pork belly $16.99 a pound? Well, because it's coming from the backyard. You know? It's not coming from
who knows where.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, on that note, are there any ingredients that you have not been able to source locally yet that like you wish you could source locally, or just haven't found like the right farm partner for yet?
Potatoes. That's been like really hard. Also because some places, you know, they, like some markets and stuff, they don't actually grow them. And I don't want to say anything like, but I want to know exactly where they come from. Like, there's no potato farm right here. You know what I mean? Yeah. For me to go, hey, can I use your potatoes? You know what I mean?
And then it may not be like actually from here. They may just be selling them.
Exactly, which is okay because they're not advertising it as their own. Right. They're selling it because that's their business.
But as far as transparency of like you're wanting to like know where you want it as a chef and quality, you want to know where the food's coming from. Yes. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you want to move over a little bit?
I mean, I think it's okay for now.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Ag and Art, which ended yesterday. I know y'all had a very busy weekend at Five Blossoms, plus you had some events with your food truck that were separate from Ag and Art. Yeah. But last week, you kicked off the tour with a farm-to-table community-style dinner. We actually went to it. It was incredible. So what kind of things go into the planning of a meal like that when it comes to, like, the menu and the ingredients and all those things put together?
Yeah. Kind of like I said earlier, like, how I base those menus is I always look up and see, like, okay, what's being harvested during this time? Where can I get these around me? Am I able to get my hands on these things? Mm-hmm. As well as just reaching out to local farms and seeing what they have available, and then I'll base my menu off of that. Yeah. And I honestly think that helps my creativity so much, is because it might be something that I hadn't worked with before, but how can I incorporate that in a dish? to serve somebody else. That goes along with everything else.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was really how do you balance the creativity with seasonality, especially, and I think that part of that probably just comes with your expertise as a chef and like knowing, you know, the tastes and flavors and what goes well together and what can be substituted.
Yeah.
But when you're putting together, you know, these big special dinners, how do you balance that creativity and seasonality?
That's a good question. And this is going to probably sound kind of funny. Honestly, I'm so passionate about it. And so when I get to sit down and just let my creative brain grow,
Yeah.
that's like the most fun part for me. Because some stuff, and I will research, okay, what root vegetable pairs best with picanha? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll do all that. And I think that's the cool part too, is like as I'm being creative, I'm also learning new things.
Yeah.
And that was the hard part of me just like going straight into being an executive chef. I was like, I feel like I'm missing out on learning so much from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like it's all at our fingertips. And if that's what I have to do to learn, then that's what I'll do. I almost felt like I wasn't really, I guess, adequate for the job that I was given. And that was hard because in order for you to be proud of stuff that you put out,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be proud of yourself and believe that you are capable of doing it. It took me a long time to get there, though, is to really see like, oh, actually, these are my recipes. I am doing this. You know, and at the end of the day, like, it's because I'm passionate about it. It's because I care.
Yeah, I think we kind of talk about that a lot on the podcast because I've had a lot of, like, first-time farmers.
Yeah.
And, or people who have, like, married into a farming family. And so, like, the almost imposter syndrome of, like, calling yourself a farmer, like, at what point if your husband's a farmer and you're living your life and you're working on the farm, like, at what point do you become a farmer and feel confident to call yourself that? It sounds like, I mean, I think we all go through that from time to time, but I can see, like, being a chef and then, like, being able to say, like, yes, like, I'm a chef as opposed to...
It took me a while to really say that. I feel like, because like I said, like, I didn't even really believe it myself. I think once I gained respect from others is when I really started to see that within myself, because I'm all self-taught. I didn't go to school. I didn't, you know, I like I said, this is all coming just from me being creative and being passionate about it. But also I'm a strong believer you don't have to go get a diploma in something to make a name for yourself in it. In certain situations, you know, can't call yourself a nurse if you don't go to nursing school.
Like, but yeah, no, 100%.
But yeah.
So then, you know, in your opinion, what roles do chefs like yourself and the farmers play in really, like, reconnecting people with where their food comes from? Yeah,
so I think as a chef, you're almost like seen as a leader in some sorts. You are leading what's going on in the kitchen. People are looking to you. So what you say is usually pretty respected. And I think if you lead in a way that is led with care, and you want to help other people out and you want to support, I think that's the biggest thing is leading by example and caring about other people, caring about the farmers, caring about their product, just as your own.
Yeah.
Because you also are treating it as your own. You're making it, as chefs, we're taking somebody else's product and we're making it into something else as our own. So yeah.
I think too, it really comes down to and we talk about this a lot on the podcast as well, but just having people experience the difference because once you kind of taste something that is picked, within a couple of days, probably more likely like the day before, versus the things that you may get not in season and or grown halfway around the world, not picked at its prime. Taste the difference, and then you understand.
Yeah, I think also, and because of that, I think we're getting to a point finally where people are like, oh, this is actually what a tomato is supposed to taste like.
Yeah.
This is, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, living here in America, we eat pasta. Okay, well, if you go to Italy and you eat it, you're going to be like, this is not even good. Because our brains think that that's not real. Like, that pasta's supposed to taste artificial. And so I think sometimes, like, things get so skewed because our taste buds are used to actually what is artificial and not what it's actually for. Mm-hmm. So when people see it being picked and you getting to taste it, that creates the experience. And then also, you're like, oh, this is actually what it's supposed to taste like. And this is actually really good that it doesn't have all these preservatives.
Yeah.
And that it didn't travel halfway across the world just to get to my plate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a video. It just reminded me of this video I saw on TikTok of this little boy. He's in Italy with his family, like, crying. And he's like, it's not Papa John's. It's not Papa John's, like, at the pizza. Well, obviously, like, that's totally different because, like, he's a little kid and it's totally different. But it's, like, true, right? Like, you go and you experience what you think you've had, and then you go actually to, like, the root of it, and it's so different. It's the same with, I think, like, tomatoes or strawberries or, green beans. But one of my favorite books, it's a book called Killing It by this writer turned, like, butcher.
Okay.
Her name is, I'm gonna butcher her name, but I think it's Kamas Davis.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of her, but basically she got laid off from her, like, writer job, and she decided to move to the south of France to learn whole hog butchery, like, on a farm, and then learned about, like, all the different cuts of meat that we just don't use here in the U.S. and like the quality of the meat and how they, like, eat the best meat, but they eat it less often. Like, their meals are not all protein heavy like they are here.
Yeah.
And that makes it also, like, more affordable, where here, if you were eating that, like, kind of meat every single day for 3 times a day, like, you'd be like, I can never just afford, like, good quality meat because we tend to eat so much of it here.
Yeah.
But she kind of brought back what she learned and opened this like, food, I don't know if it's like a food hub or some kind of, like, educational place in Portland, where she also still teaches, like, whole hog butchery to, like, people and about different cuts of meat and, like, recipes, and I don't know, it's just, like, a very cool.
It's called Killing It.
It's called Killing It.
Look it up.
Yeah, I probably have the book still. I can just let you borrow it, but it's a great story, and I think it also just kind of speaks to the chef's, like, eye of, once again, I don't think she's, like, technically a chef, but, like, the eye of knowing, like, how to use food, how to use things that are in season, how to cook things so that they taste the best, or what doesn't even need a whole lot of seasoning because it just tastes so good in its, like, natural state.
Yes, I actually go through that a lot with people. Any of my, like, red meats and stuff, it's salt and pepper.
Yeah.
That's it. If you treat it right, you don't need all this other stuff, you know? That's actually a really good point, because sometimes I feel like so many people get so caught up. You make something and it doesn't even taste like what you're actually making because of all the seasonings or sauce or whatever. You're just covering up exactly what it is with whatever you're putting on it. So you actually don't know what it tastes like.
Well, what is your favorite locally grown ingredient? And I know this probably shifts with the seasons, but right now, so we're in June in South Carolina, your favorite locally grown ingredient to cook with at the moment, and, like, how do you like to use it?
I love to cook with a lot of greens. If you've seen a bunch of my dishes, like, yes. I think there's so much flavor. There's so much flavor, obviously, in so many colors, but green, it's, you know, from herbs to collard greens, you know.
The kale that we had last week.
Yes, you had charred kale and collard greens last week.
Yeah. So good.
Because I think with the greens, like kale and collard greens, there's so much you can do with it. For instance, like what you guys had one was braised and one was charred. You can do so much with that kind of stuff, and that's obviously like really in season right now, all that stuff. Even whether it's, you know, a salad or whatever, just tossing in something super simple. I try and get like my olive oils and my like vinegars and stuff locally. There's a place actually in Seneca, South Carolina, that has, it's like an olive oil shop.
Oh,
and
nice.
vinegar shop.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, it's amazing. You should definitely
I need to go.
Yeah.
So that might be the answer to the next question, which was, are there any local farms or producers you recently discovered that you're excited about? And you may not have recently discovered the Seneca olive oil, but
one of the coolest, I feel like, that I did discover was Fields of Reverie, which was the microgreens. Because, and I actually had a conversation with one of the ladies that was at the dinner the other night. It's so crazy how much flavor is in something so small, so micro, you know? And they were saying how they've never had cilantro with collard greens. And to be honest, like, I hadn't either before I made that dish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because I was able to outsource that from a local farmer was pretty cool, because now we unlock something else that maybe a lot of people are going to put cilantro on their collard greens, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the entire meal was incredible. I loved every single course. That first course with the salmon.
Yeah, the black rice.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I wish I could eat that every single day.
Well, you know someone that can make it for you.
Yeah, it's true. Do you do like private chef events?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I actually did, I auctioned off a private chef night for someone for
cool.
a nonprofit called Go Love that I work with a lot. Anyways, I did that this past week, and I went in their house with 6 people.
That's awesome.
Did a 3-course dinner, and they actually booked me for another night to do it next month. So I actually do a lot of that. I do more of that than the food truck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do like more catering and in-house private chefing than the food truck now.
Okay, well, that's good to know for my future.
Yes.
What do you wish more people knew about where their food comes from, especially if they're eating like local, whether it's like a private chef event or the farm to table dinners or even like at your food truck?
You said, what do you think is important about it?
Yeah, well, what do you wish more people knew about where their food comes from?
I think they would actually, one, eat a little better.
Yeah.
And also be more aware and be cautious of what they're actually eating. And it also boils down just like to respect, you know. It's so convenient and easy to just go, and it's cheaper to go to a grocery store. But I think the people that do know where they're getting their ingredients from, they do live a healthier lifestyle, and they're more cautious, and they even respect their bodies more. And within that, you'll also respect other people more. You're not going to just fully indulge in other things.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. That was kind of one of my catalysts for starting the Farmer's Feed was, and similar to you, I grew up here in Rock Hill. My mom is from Chester. My dad is from Vermont, though.
Okay.
And he grew up on a dairy farm. His uncle, so my great uncle, when he took over the farm from the grandparents, turned it into an organic produce farm. But just going to school in New Orleans, living in DC and New York, and having experiences of like different eating cultures. Like my roommate in college was from New York, and she even introduced me to things that like we had, because we live in South Carolina, like we have such good access, like local produce, especially longer seasons of it because of our climate. Things that I just never even had because we kind of just ate in a certain way. And like all of the health problems that come with the way a lot of people eat in the South, which is to me very ironic given that we have access and we have some of the best food in the world here.
And, so much of it.
Yeah.
Too, like so much variety. It's actually funny. My sister, um, my niece ended up, she was allergic to gluten and all this. And my sister started looking into the nutrients and all that of bread. And there's like, I'm pretty sure there's 44 nutrients that we should be getting from our flour.
Yeah.
And the flour that you get from the store only gives you 4 of those nutrients, and they're artificial nutrients. So my sister actually started graining her own meal, making her own flour, changing. Like, my niece can eat it.
Yeah.
And within doing that, if you grain your own meal, make your own flour, out of the 44 nutrients, you get 40.
That's crazy.
Instead of 4.
Yeah.
So I think, does it take longer? Yes. Do you have to go? They actually drove out to Atlanta to get the grain. But it's changed their whole diet.
It's worth it, right?
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's a great name for a business.
It is. So what advice would you give then to farmers who just want to be more involved with their local food scene, whether, is it like collaborating on events or supplying restaurants or raising awareness, making sure that people know what they're growing and how they can buy it?
Yeah, I think going out to other farms when they have events, introducing yourself, networking when you can, go out locally. If you don't drink, go grab a seltzer water, and sit somewhere and introduce yourself. That's how so much of I've met people, is just by going out and making myself aware. And like I said, just introduce yourself. Go out and support these other farms. If you go somewhere like Bush and Vine or Windy Hill, and if they're not crazy busy, see if you can talk to the owner, or talk to somebody, Yeah, that's what I say. I can just go introduce yourself. Go put yourself out there. You can't wait for everybody just to come to you. So
that's really true. And that also kind of leads into the idea of community over competition, which I think is really key in the farming industry, because yes, it's going to take a lot of farmers to be able, if we want more people to eat food that's grown here, it's going to take a lot of farmers. It can't just take one farm growing what they grow. So I just think that the idea of finding ways to collaborate, finding ways to build relationships with your fellow farmers and not see it as a threat. I think it's very similar with like the restaurant world. But the more you can do to just build relationships, like you said, with people, and having those, that way if, one farm, they're like, you're trying to source, and you're like, we don't have any more strawberries, say, but you should try so-and-so, and like, it always works out. Yeah, for sure. I am a very big advocate of that. Is the competition aspect is I don't really like. I'm actually the most competitive person you probably ever met when it comes to like sports. But when it comes to like, say, food trucks and stuff, the food truck community is so cool, because I could be parked to a truck that sells tacos, and we are like so cool. Like, we don't. It is such an interesting dynamic too, because I always thought that it would be. Yeah. Like, I was always kind of like, the other day I ended up having a random lunch for somebody, and he's done the same thing for me, so we all try and help each other out. And I feel like, and I hope farms are like that as well. I think the more we can do to encourage people to eat locally and support local businesses and support local farmers and local chefs, we're all going to win at the end of the day. And that's the cool thing about the partnerships, is when you actually, the first partnership really I ever had as with a farm was actually for the Ag and Art Tour. Do you remember the Tatanka Bison Farm? Yeah. So I don't believe that they're in business. I don't think so, but I think you served, didn't you serve something from them at the farm table last year? Yeah. Yes. So they reached out to me, and so I did bison chorizo tacos, and they were like such a killer. It was with like fresh pico de gallo, Oaxaca cheese, and I did a chimichurri drizzle on it. And that
even just that relationship in itself, like before I even said that I was going to do it, they wanted to take me out and really dive into what they're passionate about. You'll have so much more respect for them.
What about marketing for your business, or you know, as a chef, whether it's the food truck or your private events? Like, what kind of marketing tools are you using? Is it a lot of word of mouth, social media?
Word of mouth for sure. Have you seen my business cards?
I have one. The
Okay.
food truck.
Yeah, it looks like a food truck. Those actually have gotten me so much. So that was actually one of my friends' ideas to do that. So thankful for that. So obviously, like, I always carry around business cards with me. Social media, I'm not gonna lie, to be on the younger side, I'm actually really bad with social media. It feels like such a job.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, why don't you record,
You cooking and prepping and all.
Yeah, and I was like, because that to me takes the creativity out. Because I'm like, then I'm worried about the camera. I'm not worried about what I'm doing. So I actually just mentioned to you, didn't even know I did private chefing.
Yeah.
And that's what I do the most.
See?
And also I think that's something that I need to be better at, is I do talk about that a lot. But because, like, even for instance, my business card is a food truck, so people think all I do is food truck. So trying to be better at the whole marketing thing, having to expand my team, because a lot of it was, me just doing most of it. And it gets overwhelming sometimes from answering calls.
Going on the road or doing, like, events outside of our area, like traveling and doing, like I said, you may already do that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because there was a time that I wanted to, like, kind of go on tour.
Yeah.
And I reached out to some people in Colombia and, like, the Clemson area, because I have a sister there and a sister, elsewhere. Would definitely be interested in doing that. I also want to expand. I actually want to get a trailer instead of a food truck, because I'm going to keep the food truck, but it's not as reliable. It's a 1992 Chevrolet, so, like, she breaks down.
Yeah.
So I have, like, a lot of anxiety sometimes of, like, I would love to do that, but I'm like,
Will she make it?
Yeah, could I make it? I don't know.
One thing about life as a chef that you think would surprise people?
That's a good question. I think my experience is going to be a lot different than most chefs. A lot of chefs go in and they're always behind the kitchen. They're always in the chaos times. And that's why I'm such an extrovert. So that's why I do make the effort to go out and do events now that I am doing, like the farm to table and stuff, is because it gives me the opportunity, because I had to put myself in a position to do that. And no, but yeah, I think that that's what I would say the most, is that some people just think,
like the bear.
Yes. It's actually crazy. The bear,
it's realistic, very real.
It is. That is very realistic.
Yeah.
Like, I actually can't watch that before I go to bed. Like, I have had the nightmares that he's had. I hear the ticket.
Yeah.
The ticket sounds, and that's actually really hard, because you're doing that at 10 o'clock at night, and then you're just supposed to, like,
turn off.
Done. You've just been in this full chaos moment, and then everything's closed. You know what I mean? It's not like you can go grab a bite to eat and eat dinner. I couldn't tell you the last time I sat at a dinner table and had dinner.
Yeah.
I'm eating a piece of pecan over a trash can. You know what I mean? And that does take a toll on your body too at times. So. Yeah.
And I think that is also just a great point, especially for a chef that is serving a very local community and not, like a big city like New York kind of chef. But that getting to know your customers, because then people will start to seek you out at different venues, especially like yourself, where you may be at Five Blossoms doing an event, or you may have your food truck somewhere, or you may be doing a private chef or catering, but people start to see your name. Like, I mean, I'm talking from experience. Start to see your name on like like as like with Aganar. I mean, we were going to go anyway, so we loved that dinner, but when we saw like you were doing the whole dinner, I was like, yes, 100%. My husband was so excited.
I love that.
But people start similar to the farmers, right? Like, and that's kind of where I hope to see farmers eventually. I feel like we had the moment of like celebrities were celebrities. We had the celebrity chef where it's not necessarily only celebrity chefs, but like people started to recognize chefs and go to restaurants because a certain chef was cooking there, or they were doing a pop-up somewhere, so people were excited. Like April Bloomfield was going to be somewhere in New York. And even down to like the local level, we have some incredible chefs here in New York County where I think people like seek out. I feel like the next kind of phase of that could be for the farmers, where people are like seeking not only the chefs but also like the ingredients, because we know that they are doing a special with the Bush and Vine or the Springs like strawberries or Cherry Place strawberries, or it's like Watson meats, and we know that they serve like Watson hamburger meat or whatever it might be, but people start to like seek out those things because they also know the farm itself is like sourcing or the restaurant is sourcing from those farms, and they know it's gonna be good quality.
It all comes down to that connection too that you make. Is if you can make it personable, people are gonna see it and see you and want to support you. There was actually a couple that I guess I had met at an event at the farm. It was, I think it was a Low Country Boil, so there was like 100 people there.
Oh yeah, I was at that one too.
And well, there was a couple that was sitting on the opposite side of the table as you. There was 4 of them.
Were they getting married?
No.
Oh, okay. There was like a wedding couple that we were sitting with at one point. Anyway, sorry,
really?
Keep going. Yeah.
No, but they live in Lexington, South Carolina, and they saw that I was doing the dinner, so they came all the way from Lexington because I had introduced myself to them at the farm, like from an event that I did. It wasn't even my food that I did. It was Saltwater Market. Yeah. So I was just kind of there networking. I went to introduce myself.
Yeah.
And they saw that I was doing it, so they came.
100%. Even, so I witnessed this firsthand. So there was a group of women from Charlotte that were at the Sip and Stroll with the pizzas, and we started talking about the dinner on Sunday, and they're like, can we still get tickets? And I show up at the dinner, and there's this group of women who
the 3 girls?
Yeah.
Yes, they sat right across from
your family.
Yeah, from my family.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm so glad. See, like, I love that because they had, I think, like, never been out to the farm. They weren't from York County. Yeah. Obviously, they had a little bit of more of a drive than probably we did.
Yeah.
But they had such a great experience, and they were like, yeah, we want to have more food from Chef Lynsey. And they came back down and went to the dinner the next night. So, like, that was a really cool thing to witness, too.
Yes. There's a group that, from Belmont. It's a group of like 6 that usually come. They've come to a lot of farm-to-table dinners. And from that, they actually came to the first one I ever did there. And when we were talking about it, we didn't have any more on the book since we were like, well, I'm free. I was like, I'm free next Sunday. JT and Angelica were like, I'm free next Sunday. So we ended up doing it. They came back to that one. They hired me to do like in-house private chefings in their house. So yeah.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about the Sip and Stroll that's coming up and the menu that you've put together?
Yeah. So the Sip and Stroll is June 21st, and I'm smoking a whole alligator. I don't think I can get that super locally. I think I'm going to have to get it from Florida.
Yeah. That's not far, though.
No, it's not too far. And at least I know where it's coming from. It's not like, you know what I mean? So if people haven't seen like what we cook on at the farm, it's a big like Argentinian trench grill type, and I'll be smoking a whole alligator, doing tacos. I'm going to be doing the picanha
so good.
that you guys have, but I'm going to make that into a taco. So yeah, Sip and Stroll on June 21st.
And if people want to find out more about you or any of the events that you have coming up, where can they find
Worth It Food Truck and Catering on Instagram, and Facebook, as well as itsworthitfoodtruck.com. A lot of the events are posted on fiveblossoms.farm.com. So if you want to come to the farm to table dinners or the sip and strolls or other events that we're planning to have, to go onto their website and look at our partnership from there. If you want to contact me directly, I would probably say either Facebook or Instagram or the website would probably be the easiest.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I know people are going to get so much out of this episode, and hopefully even some local farmers will also be sending you some samples of things if they don't already. Yeah. And if y'all are not familiar with the Farmer's Feed, I help farmers cultivate their marketing skills and tell their stories. You can learn more at the Farmer's Feed on Instagram and thefarmersfeed.com. I will talk to y'all soon.